I understand how life-changing gratitude is, I know that my thoughts create my reality. How can I be dealing with unworthiness? And so I sat with that question, I sat with the response, and I allowed it to just reveal itself to me, to just reveal the answers, right? And because I'm a writer, I write to process anything that I'm growing through. And so I started writing, and I started realizing that, yeah, I've been on a spiritual journey for a really long time. I've done a lot of spiritual work to remove the harm that I've experienced in my life. I've done a lot of work to heal the trauma, to heal the tragedy, to come to terms with the tremendous losses that I've experienced in my life. I've done the work to do all of that, right? But what I realized was a very, very, very significant part of the work is not just removing the hurt and the pain, the trauma and the tragedy, but there's a point where we have to pour into ourselves. And I had not done that. There was a point where I had to not feel a certain kind of way, but from calling myself brilliant. I had to pour into myself and tell myself that I was worthy. I had to pour into myself and tell myself that I deserved the best in life. I had to pour into myself and tell myself that I was creative and that I was a wonderful person, right? I had to pour all of those things into myself to fill this space that was empty after I removed all of this tragedy and trauma from my life, the residual effects of it. That thing hit me like, whoa, that's really, really deep. And so thus began my journey from unworthiness to worthiness. And what I realized as I started writing and processing my own journey was that, whoa, okay, so this unworthiness thing is really, really subtle, right? I didn't realize that it was affecting me, didn't realize that it was a factor in my life. And what I also realized in that moment was that it affects a whole lot of people in different ways. It definitely has something to do with the way that I was such a people pleaser, always being preoccupied with what other people thought about my opinions, and more concerned about their opinions than I was about my own. Unworthiness, I realized in this process, is behind people going to jobs that they hate. Unworthiness, I realized in this process, is behind people like me, entrepreneurs, undercharging for their high quality products and services. Unworthiness is behind people remaining in toxic, unhealthy relationships without either doing the work or leaving it because it no longer serves them, because it no longer honors them. There's this mutual toxicity going on in this relationship. And because unworthiness is a factor there, right? People continue in these unhealthy and toxic relationships. So the book started to emerge because I realized, okay, so I'm starting to understand how unworthiness shows up, how it manifests itself in different parts of our lives, right? And so I'm like, okay, so how do we get from this really subtle presence of unworthiness and this subtle, which makes it so dangerous, right? Because you don't have to be down and out. You don't have to be going through any chronic situation. You don't have to be, addicted to drugs or, just going through anything major. And unworthiness is certainly a factor in really major situations, but you don't have to be going through that in order for unworthiness to be a factor. It's so subtle, it exists beneath the surface of your life. It convinces you that settling for mediocrity and complacency is the way to go, where you're really capable of excellence. You really do have what it takes to step out and to manifest the dreams that you have for yourself. I keep looking all over the place with this. Y'all forgive me, because I just wanted to get this message out there. Don't look at my eyes, just hear my message. Okay. So unworthiness is this really pervasive, really subtle thing that exists beneath the surface of our lives. And there are millions of people under the spell of unworthiness who are not aware of it. I was one of them, right? And so my next question was, okay, so how do we get from this space of real subtle functional unworthiness to standing in our truth, to connecting with our innate worth? Because that's the thing, we're all born worthy, but then there's something that happens from the time that we're born until this unworthiness starts to, just wreak havoc in our lives. It really just prevents us from showing up fully as ourselves. Because when you're under the spell of unworthiness, you can go through your entire life as an imposter. Because unworthiness keeps you from discovering who you really are. It keeps you from discovering the unique gifts and talents that you have inside of yourself. So the question became, how do we get from unworthiness to worthiness? And the 7 ideas just started flowing out of me. Okay, your thoughts play a humongous role, right? The level of gratitude in your life, humongous. Forgiveness is non-negotiable as it relates to connecting with your innate worth. And your spirituality, oh my God, your spirituality is essential to discovering your innate worth. We're spiritual beings having this human experience. And when we forget that and we get caught up in the human dynamic, that's when unworthiness can have its way and wreak havoc in our lives. When we remember that we're spiritual beings having this human experience, our perspective shifts. We see things differently, right? And so the book, the 7 ideas, help you to understand the power of your thoughts. They help you to understand how essential forgiveness is, help you to understand what a game changer gratitude is. And it helps you to understand the significance of recognizing that you're a spiritual being having this human experience. And so there's a chapter for each one of these topics, and then with each one of these ideas. And then after you've completed the first 4, if you do the work in the book that is laid out in each of those first 4 chapters, you set yourself up to expand your peace consciousness, which is chapter 5. You set yourself up to expand, to dive deeply into your prosperity consciousness, which is the idea number 6. And you expand, and you know I couldn't write a book without talking about worth consciousness. You expand and set yourself up to really dive deeply and to connect with and cultivate your worth consciousness. And when you do that work that is set out in each of these 7 chapters, you set yourself up to connect with your innate worth, expand it, and just to feel differently about how you're moving in life. What happens beyond that is as individual as each one of us is, right? And manifesting your best life from that space, oh my God, it's such a gift. So I said I wasn't going to be on here long. I didn't want to be on here long. I just want to give you guys an overview of how the book came into existence, to let you know that I have recorded a brief description of what is going on in each of the 7 ideas, each of the 7 chapters, so that you can get a taste of what's in there. And I'm encouraging you to go to my website, theinstituteforworthyliving.com, to purchase your copy of the book. Best $20 investment you will make in 2022. I think that's all that I have to say for now. Yes, other than you are worthy. Thank you for listening. You guys have an amazing day. Peace.